Wait for this guy. Then I gotta regenerate 23. Almost what I need to do is like, because I've got stuff to do at like 9 and then like afternoon. Either I need to stay up quite a long time again, or I need to like do it, like go take a nap or something. Being on like 4 different clocks sucks, because then you have people that want to talk to you in many different time zones, and you're just like, well, son of a bitch, this isn't gonna work, is it? This would be real convenient right now if those flat earthers were right. Wouldn't have to deal with all those time zones and shit. If the Earth was flat, how would the sun even work? I mean, let me draw you a picture. I mean, probably. What the hell is this? Object? This is objective. I think it would have something to do with some chariots going across the sky, right? Some shit like that is probably what's going to be going on. A grid of suns. Jesus Christ. It's all an illusion. It's like, what's that old bullshit internet thing? Time cube? Time cube theory? Earth has four times. Earth has 4 days simultaneously each rotation. You erroneously measure time from one corner. If you've never seen the time cube page, it's worth reading once. But it's basically that uh, the world is actually a cube. Earth has 1 day, even if it stood still, and 4 days in one rotation. Oh man, it's like the funniest shit ever. The time cube is in 1884. Meridian Time personnel met in Washington to change Earth time. First word said there was only 1 day. It could be used to not change the 1 day Bible. So they applied the 1 day and ignored the other 3 days. So the Bible time was wrong, and then it proved wrong today. This is a major lie. And there has so much evil feed from that it's wrong. No man on earth has no belly button. It proves every believer on earth is a liar. Yeah. Yeah, there's a bunch of crazy shit. That was like early internet memes, I think, was Time Cube. Alright, so we now have our objectives and all that trash in there. So we can go back to our stuff, our post stage screen. So we have our objectives, we have our results, and so that will fill this guy out. We need to then show this element, right? So we need to show this guy, and we also need to snag the objective list. Okay, so we'll have set our classes, we'll have set our things, and our post-stage objective will be there. Alright, so now what we should do is grab our tier list stuff. Alright. So we're going to have our result. And then we'll also have a screen passed in. Alright, so we'll add that in there. So the next thing we gotta do is we got our background, we need our foreground. We need our item bronze. Alright, so what exactly do we need for these results? So these will be tier conditions, but we also need the condition values. So we have these objectives, not objectives, we have these win conditions, we have loss conditions, we have result tier. Alright, result tier has bronze, silver, gold, diamond, platinum, which have conditions for them. Crap. We need another data structure sort of thing for this, which has the conditions broken up by type. So we have the result tier, and then we also have the type of result that we care about, which is like how many seconds or whatever. So we need the stat. So we're going to need to pick the stat out of this result tier. So I guess maybe it should be value. We'll also need the stats themselves. So we can fill that out. Alright, so we're going to need to go through all the conditions for all the things and fill them out. So we'll need like our bronze, silver, gold, platinum, and diamond conditions themselves. So we'll have like all the stats. Alright, so we'll go through for each one of these guys and Alright, so basically we're going to do these like this dot get condition, and we're going to set all these things here. So it'll be result dot bronze, and then condition, and all that sort of stuff. So I'll snag all these out of here. You can't read this. Yeah. Yeah, it's like the line from Billy Madison. We're all dumber for having listened to it. So we have all our conditions. We have our results and we have our stats. This is a lot of work. So we need all the stats if we've reached it or not. So we're going to need something inside of our mission completion or our... We have our best tier, but that's different. We want these per stat. So the result tier stuff actually needs to have a stat value and a tier on it. So we need result tier result sort of thing. Even this doesn't make any sense. This is not how things are organized. Fuck. Alright, so we're gonna need to know which tier we made. There's a degenerate case here where basically for bronze, we pretty much always have to have bronze be attainable. Alright. So we need to know if we achieved a specific tier. Do we have a stats object that's got everything in it? I guess we do have the user stats object. There is just a lot of damn work to get everything hooked up here. Alright, so I'll need to get the value for the stat. So I need to get, for every condition here. Hello, Shikama Gaming. I am working on the UI stuff right now for the game. Since that's the part we're on. UI sucks to work on, but that's just what I gotta do. And yeah, I use Unreal 4 for all this. Okay, so we need to know which thing we do. So if we need our tier, we're gonna set it to none to start with. So basically, if this.m bronze does not equal null, we need to check if we have achieved a tier. Alright, so it's going to be has achieved condition. So what we'll want to do is if this.bronze does not equal null and gutils has achieved condition, this.bronze equals false, then we return none. So we'll do it this way. And the final one will be diamond. So I need to do that for all of them. You're starting your own project. Give me tips on how to stay motivated for 12 hours a day. So your own project? Your own project, huh? Well, it depends. How big is the project? Alright, so get achievement tier for our stats is going to do this. We'll do like has achieved condition. So what we need to do is if the condition is such, I mean, the best way to stay motivated is to pace yourself, and if you don't feel like working, to not work on stuff. Like, if you're, it's kind of like the taxi driver problem. If you're a taxi driver and a lot of people will work until they get a certain amount of money each day and then they quit, and what that means is some days if you need to earn $300 a day or whatever, you keep working until you get $300 and you go home. That's kind of a problem. What you should do is work for a set number of hours each day, hopefully, because when you're doing, well, you shouldn't work for a set number of hours. You should basically be like, if you're working and you get a whole bunch of stuff done and you're feeling good, keep working. If you are working and you're not getting much done, it might be a good idea to stop working. Because same thing with the taxi driver analogy. If you make, some days people all need rides and you're going to make tons of money, don't go home when you made $300. Go home when, like you stop making money. Because if you went home early, you would have missed all the rest of that day that would have made you so much. So the project used to have 12 people. They split and decided to make different games, but they ended up doing nothing. So you used to have a lot of people working on a project, and then all of a sudden it shattered into the wind. And you are picking up the pieces of that project and putting them together. So you were the writer Um, well, it's pretty difficult to make a game if you don't have engineers on your team. That's usually a requirement for making stuff. There's plenty of people who have ideas, but ideas don't build a car, and they won't get you to the store. They'll help guide you there, but they're not going to physically do it. So if you don't have engineering skills, that's going to be a real problem. First thing there would be to go get an engineer of some form. Or if you want to do it yourself, it's going to be a long road. But if you've already got the plumbing in place, and you've got the story, and you've got all the stuff to tell your story, then one way to stay motivated is to get a community of people that are interested, that will have good ideas. It's always good to have deadlines. Deadlines are very motivating, even if they're kind of arbitrary. You have to teach yourself C++. That's a big mountain to climb. We don't have a condition defined here, do we? Yeah, we have a comparison. All right. So this is going to be condition dot condition. You're a YouTuber, so you have hours and hours and hours of your own work, or you have many hours and you have a community that is interested and follows your stuff. Yeah, the deadlines are another thing that are really good. It's good to have a calendar of whatever you're doing. It's good to have somebody to talk to about what you're doing in an informal sense, such as somebody who's not going to be all judgy about shit that you can just bitch at. Just be like, you'll never believe this stupid ass thing I have to do. And they're like, yeah, that sounds awful. So that's helpful. Other than that, the main thing is just to try to... The other thing I do is I have psychological triggers to make myself go into work mode. So, like, I wear gloves, and that is... Well, for one, I'm in a basement. It helps keep my hands warm. The other thing is I wear specific gloves for when I'm working, and I don't wear them when I'm not working. So that helps kind of, if you sit down and you don't feel like working, you put your gloves on, you'll just start working, you know. So that can be helpful, you know, use psychology to help you out a little bit. So this condition dot threshold or condition dot, yeah, all right, condition dot comparison is this, and this is condition dot condition, and threshold is threshold. Okay, so if value is equal to threshold, return true, otherwise return false. I'm just going to have everything fall through to the falses. If you're a good writer, write a fantasy novel for me. Scott's like, write me a book. All right, see how it is. The game is fantasy, and it's funny you say that. I was thinking of doing a mystery as an overarching quest in the game. Well, it depends on what kind of... narrative-driven games, I think, are pretty difficult because there's a certain amount of content, and once you've played the game, it's kind of, the story has been told. There's not too many times you can, without making a very complex, in-depth project, which has multiple endings or lots of hidden things, it's difficult to reveal a story in a game where you don't control the character, the player does. So, though I probably don't need to tell you that. You probably know that a hell of a lot more than I do if you're a writer. Alright, so the less than, so if value is greater than, no, if value is less than threshold, we're good. Greater than, Kingdom Come Deliverance. Yeah, that was, I recently played through and beat that game. It's pretty cool. Lots of stabbing people. You've done something like that for sleep. I have trouble sleeping. No, the triggers to sleep. Yeah. Oh, that's the other thing, Karakan. Like, a well-written story is the reason why people play games. Like, BioWare's entire thing until it went under was, we write the most compelling story-driven games in the world. And, you know, I have gone back and replayed Mass Effect 1 many times and installed all the mods to, you know, increase the graphics and make it better. Because I'm like, ah, man, it's been, you know, like 2 years. I should go replay Mass Effect, and that game is entirely story. Like, you sit down somebody next to you to be like, hey, come, this game's great. You shoot all these aliens, and then it's like 3 hours of you hitting on chicks, and you're like, ah, this is kind of awkward. Maybe you should leave. It's not all action, is it? In fact, it's none of it's action. I guess more what I'm saying, Karakan, is I think it's probably more difficult to make a game you'll come back to play the next day if it's story-driven, versus you can get people to play games like just with fun systems. You can get them to come back pretty easily, like just Geometry Wars or whatever, right? You know, just squares and triangles that shoot each other. You know, people will come back for that pretty simply, and it's not a complex game to make. But a story-driven game needs all that together before it's playable. And it has to be a good story to bring it back. You don't remember the bad ones, or the okay ones. But I'll stick to what I know, because I don't know jack shit about telling a good story. I'm an engineer. A good story to me is, hey guys, we launched yesterday, and it worked. And I'm like, yeah, cool story, man. That's really engaging. We should do that again sometime. But as for motivation, the psychological triggers are very helpful. Having a schedule really helps. Having physical separation between your work environment and your, especially if you don't have an office to go to, having a physical separation between where you're working and where you're like doing non-work is very good. Need about 50 plot twists. Lots of coffee. I don't actually drink that much coffee. I just drink energy drinks. In fact, I tried drinking some coffee like last month, and these energy drinks don't have nearly as much caffeine as coffee does. That is one thing I do. I only drink caffeine when I am actually working. Otherwise, I'm drinking water. Physical separation. Yeah, working from home. Yeah. Physical separation. It's basically these layers and layers of psychological triggers that you get with a normal office. Because that was kind of the thing that I always made sure to do with teams that I ran at Amazon and Electronic Arts, everywhere, was you have rituals that your team does, and they're really important to do to get everybody, you know, on the ball and ready to go. Like if you come into work and everybody's kind of moving slow and kind of sleepy, and you do the ritual of just, you know, your daily stand up where you just, it doesn't matter that the content of that meeting is worth anything. It's just that after that meeting, your brain boots. And it's the same thing of like walking through a doorway into the next room and all of a sudden you forgot what the hell you're doing. It's because any sort of transition resets your brain. So having a ritual of some kind works. Yeah, if I was not streaming, I mean, the other thing is actually streaming is you can choose to be distracted or not distracted. Thank you for following Chicago Gaming. Yeah. Because the other thing with streaming is, since you're on camera or whatever, though if you're doing YouTube, you probably know that. You can't just like be browsing Reddit or some shit and all of a sudden you're doing nothing forever. With streaming, at least you're interacting with people. The coffee itself is not important. Yeah, you just like make the coffee and then just put it there, and it just gets cold and you throw it out. You're doing the sacrifice to the gods of work. They require the caffeine. So we get our achievement tier, and that's based on the conditions, and we need stats. So okay, so I guess what I can do is kind of a reverse case here with drop down. So like if we achieve the platinum tier, I mean, no. What am I trying to do? I'm trying to set the text here. So if we do diamond, we do nothing. If we do platinum, we set our diamond text. Where is this? We have item bronze. Do we ever snag these? Yeah, so this dot bronze. And these are bronze, these are conditions here. Tell me I have a fish tank and that's not someone in a bathroom. What? You hear water gurgling. What? There's no water gurgling. And no, there's nobody in my house. So that's not I'm not just like on a toilet right now. So whatever you're hearing is, it's not coming from me. So we can get rid of all of this stuff in the clone. So if it's this tier, then it's going to be this dot diamond text. And we need to get the text for the diamond condition. So maybe we should just do this dot get text for tier. Get text for thing, get text for condition. This dot diamond condition. Another thing is I could iterate over these, couldn't I, and set that up. Whatever. It doesn't need to be perfect, it just needs to work. I'll erase your anecdotal story. Let's see. So we have the achieved here. We need get text for condition. That could be part of the utils. So it could be gutils get text for condition. So I think it's get name for stat, and then we need the actual value, which is going to be condition.threshold. So we're just going to return value plus space plus name. So that should do that. So get text for conditions should set all of that. The questions here are, we need to set the current value in some of these. So basically, if we are any stat other than none, then we need to set the current one. And that's going to be the foreground text that we need to set. And we're going to want to get the current stat for this. So this is going to be condition.threshold. No, it's going to be get value for stat. I'm gonna push all these conditions on here. Then I can snag the first thing off of it that's not null. Get text for condition. If condition is null, just return nothing. Yeah, Chicago Gaming. That's real tough if you had a project, especially if it was going well, and then everything fell apart. That can be a real pain in the ass to deal with. It's kind of what happened with one of the game studios I was working on at a startup. We're doing real well. We'd all worked for a year, and we came in one Monday, and the money was gone, and we had to shut down immediately. It was about 60 people, and basically what had happened is the Korean businessman dude over in Asia was trying to get us a publishing deal, and he had turned down a few people for a publishing deal to try to get a better publishing deal, and he didn't get it. And what happened is basically because the laws in California would not allow any sort of furlough or anything else. Basically, everybody had accrued X amount of vacation pay time, and the laws are such that if you cannot pay that out, the business has to immediately shut down. And this is to protect workers, right? Like, the idea is you can't just run the business into the ground and then come in on a Monday and be like, well, we can't pay anything to you. We are completely broke. So the business had to shut down, kind of because everybody was so dedicated they had never taken any of their vacation hours, right? And a lot of people are like, oh, come on, can't we just, we're all here to ship this thing. We need just like another 2 months to get a different publishing deal. But basically the laws in California are pretty bad for that specific situation. Because it would have been different. Like, everybody joined it knowing, like, we'd come in on some Monday and like we'd be out of money. But that was, everybody's on the same page. This wasn't like people had nothing else they could do. This was, we all know the risk here, but labor laws kind of fucked us. But that was annoying. If you get funding back, you're doing 2 DFX. Alright, so get value for stat. We're going to say if stat. Alright, so get value for stat. So we're going to do basically if condition does not equal null. We're going to do, this is going to be condition dot condition and then stats. I can just do it this way. We need to get the name for this, don't we? So that'll set the foreground text to what we need. The next thing we need to do is we need to set the style on this guy. So the style needs to be set on this foreground thing. Show and add. Alright, so that should do the things that we wanted to do. Let's see if we mistyped anything. We most certainly did. Post age screen 109. Alright. So we've got that. So we should have the lines that actually fill themselves out properly. So we need to actually fill out our proper data now is what it's looking like. Alright, well, I'll be right back.